We've talked Tyreek Hill trade rumors before on this channel, and it seems that there is more smoke because yet another source mentioned that the Packers could be a trade destination for the Cheetah. Last week, it was Sporting News that mentioned Tyreek Hill with Green Bay. They mentioned him along with 4 other different teams. Today, we're talking about a fan-sided article that mentioned Green Bay and Green Bay alone. So, on today's show, we're going to break down everything that could happen. We can break down the possible trade that could take the Cheetah all the way from Miami up north to Green Bay. Before that, make sure you guys follow me on Twitter, okay, or on X. You can find me at Joey Petersen 8. In the first 5 followers, they'll get a follow back. You're going to find my social media. You can find it in the comments. Also in the description, it's going to be right under the first paragraph. So go down there, click on that link, give me a follow. Again, first 5 followers get a follow back. So before you look me in the eyes or look me in the comments section and you tell me, Joey, this is ridiculous. I'm not listening to this. Tyreek Hill isn't going anywhere. Well, things have seemed to take a turn back in that direction, right? We talked last episode about all the antics he had on Twitter after the end of their season. And then kind of things, the ship righted again. It seemed like, okay, he's going to be back in Miami. Everything's fine. And then all of these tweets came from earlier in this week where he quoted a tweet that's saying, would you be open to trading Tyreek Hill as a Packers fan? He quoted that with a smiley face. Then he tweeted 2 different peace sign emojis. So people are kind of starting to think maybe Tyreek Hill wants out of there yet again. So this is the fan-sided trade that they offered. The Dolphins would receive a 2nd-round pick in 2025, a 5th-round pick in 2025, and then a 3rd-round pick in 2026. Also, the Green Bay Packers would get Tyreek Hill. I'm not going to lie to you guys. At first look, at first glance, at first breakdown, that seems a little bit too rich for me. I love Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek Hill would be an absolute stud in this offense. We've talked about it before. I don't think Tyreek, and no pun intended, is over the hill just yet. I think he's still got a lot or a decent bit left in the tank. But like a 2nd rounder, next year's 3rd, and a 5th rounder is a little bit too much. I'd be interested if they turn that 2nd round pick this year to a 4th, and instead of doing a 2026 3rd, you added in maybe a young wide receiver, or you made that 2026 3rd go to a 5th round pick. But like, I'm not comfortable giving up a 2nd and 5th this year and next year's 3rd for 31-year-old Tyreek Hill that's being paid a ton of money. Alrighty, I'll put the trade back up on the screen. Would you guys accept this trade? If you would, go ahead, give me an A for accept in the comment section down below. And if you wouldn't do it, go ahead and give me a D for decline. I'll give you my answer at the end of this ad break. So I wouldn't accept that trade. Alrighty, it's too much for me. I think that this team, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in just a little bit, but it needs a permanent solution at the wide receiver 1 spot. I don't think Tyreek Hill is that. But let's hear a little bit more what Joseph Grassano had to say on Fansided. He said the Green Bay Packers are in desperate need of a true alpha dog in their wide receiver room. Despite this, Green Bay chose to forego signing veterans like Cooper Kupp, Stefon Diggs, and Davante Adams this offseason. That said, there is still one veteran wide receiver whose future with his current team remains unclear heading into next season. Now, I'm going to give Joseph some credit on this. I'm going to give Fansided some credit on this. It's not necessarily wrong. The part I'm having trouble with and the thing that I'm kind of disagreeing with is the trade offer. But I'm not disagreeing in the fact that this wide receiver room needs a true alpha dog and that Tyreek Hill could be that. He could be that tenfold, easily, right? Any single day of the week. Because you got Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, who you're not going to see until probably November? It's like a lot of those guys, they're great talents, they're great wide receiver 2s, but none of those guys scream alpha dog. Not a single one. And it's pretty obvious through the rumors that we got from them possibly trading for DK Metcalf, possibly signing Cooper Kupp, that they're looking to fill in that hole over this offseason. And apparently, when Matt LaFleur spoke to the media earlier this week, he said that they did a deep dive into drops. Hear more from the head coach. We had a ton of drops, and that's an area that we have to clean up. A lot of things happen. There's a lot of variables, but I think that we've got a pretty good plan going into next season. Not going to lie to you, Matt. Sounds a little bit vague to me. Would love to hear a little bit more about this deep dive on drops that you guys did, but that needs to get figured out. 33 drops in one season is far too many. A drop rate for Jordan Love of 7.1% is far too high. And let me just give you a little bit of a recap of how 2024 was for this wide receiver room. So Watson was out for most of 2025, but you don't need me to tell you that. Reed started off the season strong, struggled in November and December. Romeo Doubs was in and out, suspensions, concussions, and then Dontavian Wicks had the second worst catch percentage in the National Football League at 51.3%. All that being said, though, I don't necessarily think that Hill solves this drama. I think that you have to take a lot into account when adding a guy like Tyreek Hill into your roster. If anything, like I said last week, I don't know how he would fit the culture. I don't know what he would do to the culture. Because when it's at its best with Tyreek Hill, it's at its best. But there are a lot of times where he brings a lot of unnecessary drama. Like the end of the season, January 5th. This was tweeted out by Bleacher Report. A quote from Tyreek Hill. "I'm out, bro." Very end of the season. They didn't make the playoffs. Obviously, that upset him. We showed you this last week as well. Show you it again. Because I think this is the most important thing when talking about trading for Tyreek Hill. They're down 12. It's a game against the Jets, week 17. A playoff spot is still on the line for Miami. And Waddle says, "Hey, Cheetah, you done? You done?" Jalen Waddle asking his fellow wide receiver if he's going to come into the game or if he's done. He didn't come in the game. So coming up, I'm going to talk a little bit about where I want Green Bay to address wide receiver. Because again, I don't think it's going to be in Tyreek Hill. But before that, let's run a little bit of an offseason checkup. Okay, are you sad that the season is so far away? Do you wish ESPN talked about Green Bay every single day? Do you want daily coverage during the offseason where you're not getting it anywhere else? If you answered yes to all of those questions, you got to do me one favor, and that's hit that sub button. Join us right now. Help us get to 3,000 subscribers. We are oh so close. Need you guys to push us over the edge. So my take on this, like I said earlier, Green Bay needs a long-term solution at wide receiver. I don't think Tyreek Hill is a long-term solution at wide receiver. So what do I mean by that? Well, I think they should trade for a young guy that's still in this league like a Garrett Wilson. I don't think that's going to happen. But if they're not going to do that, then I think they got to look at the draft. And I think they need to address this position in one of the first two rounds. If you're going to get a long-term solution at this position in this draft, it's going to be in the first two rounds. Tetairoa McMillan, I think, is my favorite wide receiver prospect going into this draft. Now, he did say a couple weeks ago, or last week it came out, a video of him saying he doesn't watch film. I'm not going to overreact to that too much. I think that's going to change whenever he gets into the NFL. But 6'4", 220 pounds, and he runs so very well for being that size. 1,300 yards, 8 touchdowns in 2024. He's the ultimate X-wide receiver with Christian Watson being out for the majority of the 2025 season. I think Tetairoa McMillan is going to be your go-to guy. Another guy I would love to select in that first round is Matthew Golden. We can already see it, right? Touchdown, green, and golden. 191 pounds, 5'11", very different receiver than Tetairoa McMillan is, but he's lightning fast. Ran a 4.3, 940 at the combine, 987 yards with 9 touchdowns, played his best games in the biggest moments for the University of Texas. He's an absolute menace once he gets the ball in his hands, especially if it's an open space. Another guy I would love to look at is Jaden Higgins, a guy who seems to be climbing up draft boards over the past couple of weeks, and I think he could be a guy that's a sneaky wide receiver one. He got 1,100 yards with Iowa State, and that's also with being on the same roster as another very good wide receiver and having Rocco Becht at quarterback, who I think has a ton of shortcomings. If you look at his route tree and his route tree success, you're not going to be very blown away. However, I think the yardage, production, a lot of that was overcome because of the offense that he was in. 6'4", 214 pounds. He's an X receiver at the highest degree. And another guy, Luther Burden, who I still believe could be an X receiver. A lot of people have differing opinions because he caught so many of his balls behind the line of scrimmage in 2024. But kind of at the same thing as Jaden Higgins, a lot of that, in my opinion, was because of the offense that he played in and the quarterback that he played for. But anytime he was asked to go down the field and he got a good ball thrown to him, he used that 6-foot frame and his massive catch radius to come down with it. I think Luther Burden is going to be a phenomenal talent in the NFL. So what say you? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm going to give you a statement. Let me know if you agree or disagree. The Packers should pick a wide receiver in round 1. Let me know in the comment section down below if you think they should. Give me an agree, and if you think they should not, go ahead and give me a disagree. Thank you, as always, for tuning in on this fine day. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you guys haven't already. We bring you daily Packers content. You're not going to find it better anywhere else right here on YouTube. So if you haven't joined us yet, do it right now. Hit that sub button.